What's up, everyone? All right. Well, good morning. No, it's first of all, it's 4:55 in the afternoon, and so good afternoon. But I'm not going to say good afternoon because it's not a good afternoon. I got that from Nancy Pelosi. There's nothing good about it. Today was a bad day. Um, I'm going to rant a little bit about why it was a bad day, but let's begin high level. You can see the P&L right there. I'm up $3,589.64. Well, that's not so bad. I mean, that's certainly a green day, probably one of the smallest green days of the month. I only took two trades today, and all of that is colored a little bit by the events of yesterday. So I had the pleasure of flying halfway to Europe and then coming back, courtesy of United Airlines out of Newark. They had this idea, had a flight that was boarding, and they said, you know what, we got to switch planes. This plane that we're supposed to get on, it's not fit to fly. And I went up to the desk a little while later. I said, have you switched planes, or are you guys going to fix that plane? And they said, oh, no, we're not fixing that plane. That plane's no good to fly. We're going to get another one. So I was like, that's weird. All right. So, anyways, we get on a different plane and we fly, not quite halfway, but we fly a good ways to Europe. And then they said, there was just a really loud noise. We're not sure what it was, but we got to head back. And the flight attendant got on the speakers and she said, we think there might be something wrong with the wings. And I thought, well, the wings, I'm glad it's not something important. It's only the wings. It'll be fine. In fact, I actually took a poll. I said, how many of you guys would like to risk it and keep going to France rather than going back to Newark? Everyone raised their hand. In fact, one guy said, I'd rather end up at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean than go back to Newark. And I said, you, sir, are a hero today. The pilot said, this is not a democracy. Your vote doesn't count. What I say goes. We're going back to Newark. So I got back to Newark, flight canceled, got back to New York City at like 4 in the morning, got in the hotel, and I said, 4 in the morning, pre-market is just beginning. So this is actually kind of good timing. Of course, I didn't sleep at all. Now, I already knew I wasn't going to get a lot of sleep. And I often warn you guys, I say, did you eat well? Did you sleep well? And if you don't sleep well, be really careful how you trade because you can make some big mistakes. And I do know that about myself. So I got ahead of the game. On Saturday night, I got almost 12 hours of sleep. I knocked myself out, got 12 hours of sleep, and I turned the AC down to 65 degrees, got it really cold, and that actually for me increases my quality of sleep. I'd wager by 10%. So I got 12 hours of sleep, but I'd really say it was more like 13.2 hours of sleep. So I was figuring if I can get 3.8 hours of sleep on the flight from Newark to Europe, that's going to get me at a total of 16 hours over 2 days. That's 8 hours a day average. I'll be good to go Monday morning. Well, that math was out the window pretty much pretty early on in the flight. So I recognized that I was at a very high risk of having potentially a bad day today because I didn't sleep well. It throws you off. And ironically, I'm in New York City, and when I first connected to the internet on the hotel Wi-Fi, I had 300 milliseconds of latency. I was like, I couldn't be that much closer to the floor of the exchange. I know that data centers are in New Jersey, but even still, um, and the internet was just terrible. So once the internet got a little bit better, and I don't know, maybe what happened, but someone plugged something back in down in the basement, got a little bit better. I was able to get a couple trades, but I was surprised this morning. Number one, that XLE, the energy ETF, wasn't up more. I thought it would be up more because of what's going on in the Middle East. It wasn't. So naturally, most of the oil energy stocks weren't really up that much either. The overall market, S&P 500, kind of unchanged from the events of the weekend, which I was surprised by. And it just goes to show, trade the price action, not your bias or your thesis of what you think. I mean, you can have an idea, but ultimately the price action is what's going to govern. So I did break the ice with my first trade on HUSA, Houston American Energy Company. It did, as you can see, give a couple of moves here today. The first trade that I took on it was on the early side, just a little after 7 a.m., as it was curling up here for the breakthrough a pre-market pivot. So I sort of thought we had a pre-market pivot right around this level of 2170. I bought as it squeezed through that level right there, and I locked up $2,000 of profit. Obviously not a home run, but it's a base hit, and I'm happy to lock up a little base hit, get the day started. However, it was on that trade that I realized how bad my latency was, because I pressed the buy button, nothing happened. Then suddenly I thought it showed I had shares, and I was like, uh-oh. I go to press the sell button, nothing's happening, and then all of a sudden the shares are gone. So, that's where I realized, oh, this internet's not good. So I didn't take any more trades on HUSA. So it did end up squeezing again at the open, but I did not trade that price action there. Then I got one trade on CERO, which was a quick little scalp. It hit the scanners. I just jumped in and out quickly with 1,500 shares, made about $1 a share, and was in and out. So now it's up 3,200 on the day or whatever it is approximately. And then we started seeing momentum on these lower price names, IBO, and I was like, 423 million shares of volume now. The stock is sucking attention from other potential candidates. It's too cheap for me. It's not the price range I like. Yes, it did make a huge move, but I just know I don't typically do well on these. So I said, nope, I'm going to leave it alone. So I left that one alone. Let's check the top gainer scanner. So top gainers top gappers. Top gappers is the scan I was looking for. Oh yeah, ECDA. This is the other one. So then ECDA pops up, and you're getting more penny stock action on this one. And I was like, all right, I see what we've got going on here. You can open the door. Go ahead and open the door, bud. So at this point, I just was like, the writing's on the wall. This is not going to work. For me, these are all low price penny stocks. I don't do well on them typically. And I just gave up. I was like, it's just not happening today. These low price names are not what I do well on. I know some people like them, but I don't. And so with that, next thing you know, it's 9:30 opening bell, and my window of kind of like strongest opportunity for breaking news has come and gone. The good news is I'm going to try to get a solid 12 hours of sleep tonight, and I will be streaming and back at it tomorrow morning. There's no flights out tonight that are going where I wanted to go. So, well, United gave me an offer, but it was not a good one. I said, no, that's nice try. So at this point, routine now is I'm in New York, and we'll just have a regular day tomorrow. The internet has been better for the rest of today, so I don't know. I'm just going to hope that it stays better tomorrow. But maybe that was just a weird fluke or something. So we trading tomorrow, and just going to try to, hope that we have some better opportunities. But we really didn't have a lot today that was that great. Just a lack of good catalysts, unfortunately. Energy, just sort of confusion there with, is this going to work? Is it not going to work? Obviously, it did not work. So that, that didn't happen for us. So we didn't get energy moves today. We didn't really get any good biotechs. Today was a penny stock day. But we don't know what tomorrow is going to be like. So tomorrow, hopefully I can chip away, make a little bit more progress towards my weekly goal. And, we'll see what I can do. This is the crazy thing with trading. Last week, huge green week. Today, it's like crickets. It's just some days are like that. And, with showing up every day, I have that commitment because you just never know when you're going to have a hot day. And it might be the case that you go out of your way to show up and it's a cold day, but by being consistent that more often than not, you're going to catch those moves. So I try to focus on being consistent, and I'm hoping that tomorrow we see some better opportunities. I think there will be a little bit of sort of pent up momentum from traders who are looking for something to trade that's not a penny stock tomorrow. So if we have some company that puts out some really good news, then boom, game time. and I'm ready to go. But if we don't get good news, then we just got to keep hanging out on the sidelines. So I will, you know, say that at least today I was able to keep risk in check despite being definitely coming to the table at less than 100%. Kept risk in check, sized down, traded less, recognized pretty early it wasn't happening, and called it. It can be hard to do that for a beginner trader, even on a day where they feel great. And on a day where your fuse is a little shorter, it's easy just to get frustrated and stubborn and say, screw it, I'm just going to go ahead and, whatever. And so, I think that, it's a skill that you learn over time, and it's something a muscle you got to keep exercising. So that's it for me. Those of you guys, reminders always: trading is risky. My results aren't typical, but those of you guys who want to check out a couple more episodes I've got here on YouTube, some long form episodes I recently uploaded, I'll put links to them here and here so you can check those out. And I'll see you guys back at it bright and early tomorrow morning. All right, let's hope for some gappers tomorrow morning that look good. Maybe some nice biotech stocks with news. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning.